ball, and Kawhi Leonard couldn't care less. The Lakers and LeBron, he could care less. And an eagle carelessly whispering that he thinks the Cowboys will choke? Ice, Stone, Shaw, Woodman. Let's go.
Well, I got Tim Cowlishaw choking. Late. As usual.
Not going to happen. Not going to do it.
On a limb. That's the Dallas choke.
Kevin and I are straight out of here. Let the two of you fight.
I can care less about the narrative about me. It doesn't matter. I'm a staple in this game. That was the quote from LeBron. Does LeBron get a mute for narrative or not? You get a mute for LeBron saying narrative. That's right. He had 42, 20 in the fourth. Lakers 4-0 in the homestand. Frank, do you think this was LeBron's response to all the chatter?
You know what? I think all these great players, going all the way back to Michael Jordan, they use little motivation to get them through an 82-game season. Why not? It's a nationally televised game. His guy Greg Popovich is on the other bench. I think that had a lot to do with it. And you see what LeBron does. He tries to get everybody else involved, and late in the game with the game on the line, winning time, who's the guy scoring 20 points? LeBron. He's been outstanding. The Lakers a lot better than I thought they'd be.
Well, that's not about the Lakers. That's about you then, okay? How about that, KB? What did you see from LeBron last night?
Well, I saw a guy who stepped up his game when he needed to at most, and to drag all those guys to yet another victory with his 20 points in the fourth quarter. But you're on to something. I think he was responding a little bit to the chatter, because remember what Kevin Durant said. He said, we in the media are in love with LeBron James. Well, if we were so in love with him, why don't we just give him the MVP every year, which we do not. And the other thing was he kind of took a shot at the news about LeBron that we report about the things that he does off the court. And so last night, I think, was a little reminder from LeBron that, you know what, I can do things on the court that'll get the media talking about me as well.
Yeah, I think he definitely, there was a little bit of a response there. He can say, and all the players don't read everything, but people around them hear it. And that word toxic from Durant, just that little quote, you don't know exactly what it means. And LeBron did a good job saying, I want to know the whole transcript and the context, so I'm not going to comment on that. He was aware of that part. But his performance, I mean, I don't know what we can say after 15 years. I thought his drives to the basket when he was getting fouled and making those difficult shots were as impressive as the long three.
I don't know what we can say after 15 years, Kalisha.
Well, I don't know what we can say.
You're not in the mood. You get in the mood. Woody Page, how about you?
Well, here's what I could say after 16 years. I think he's getting better as he gets older. I mean, this is the 7th time, Tony, that he has scored 25 points in the fourth quarter. So Frank was onto something when he said that he kind of lets everybody get involved and he sees how they're going, and then in the fourth quarter he takes over. But in regard to what he's hearing other people say, I think it's like all the presidents. They get a news digest every day. I think his people give him a sports digest, and so that's why he said, I need the full,
is that what it is?
the full text on that. Yeah.
Or it could just be his Twitter feed. Frank, back in.
You know, it's amazing when you think about LeBron James and the guys that were in that draft class. You know, Darko has been on a farm in Croatia for about 5 years now. Chris Bosh is up in Toronto watching the Raptors. The only active players are Carmelo, who's still on the roster of the Rockets, but in an empty gym, and Dwayne Wade, who's a backup for a bad Miami team. Here's LeBron James. Not only is he still active, he's the best player in the league. It's remarkable what he's still able to do.
I will say this as well. That lineup at the end of the game with Lonzo Ball in shape and hitting threes, Hart, Kuzma, and then Chandler, a perfect role player. That's a lineup you can fear come April.
Yeah. Nobody's fearful of the Spurs this season. They just went through a streak where they had double-digit losses, 20-point losses, 30-point losses. The state of the Spurs right now, Frank?
Well, you know, Greg Popovich came out and he said he doesn't like today's NBA, too much three-point shooting, it's boring. He does not have that type of team anymore. And guess what? His best player, the reason why he's so frustrated and why they're losing is their best player left the country. He now plays in Canada. That has more to do with the Spurs not being any good. That, Tony Parker leaving, Manu Ginobili retiring. Tough to overcome that.
I think he's so frustrated, not so much with the three-point line as he is frustrated with the team that he has. All those championship teams are gone. I think he's going to retire at the end of this year based on
Anybody else think that's a possibility? Woody onto something here, Tim?
Yeah, I think he could move on, and I think his frustration also stems from the fact that Aldridge and DeRozan, very good players, not necessarily great three-point shooters.
Yeah. Israel talked about this in his FaceTime on yesterday's show. I mean, it's Aldridge, it's DeRozan. These are ISO players. playing in Popovich's system in an NBA now that's not even with Popovich's system. I mean, everything is going in different directions for the Spurs right now. We'll move on. The direction we're going to the best team in basketball. Raptors 113, Sixers 102. Full Kawhi Leonard. And the good times rolling for Toronto. Tim Bontemps. Kawhi Leonard proving why he belongs atop MVP leaderboard. ESPN.com. KB, Kawhi the MVP of the season so far?
I don't know that he's the MVP of the season so far, but you got to put him in the conversation because he's really responded
The conversation's
to all the
introduction on this
questions.
show now, okay?
Put him in there because of all the doubts that we had about him leaving the Spurs. And you look at what he's doing. You showed him shooting a three-point shot right there. That's something that the Spurs are missing right now. And his meshing with Kyle Lowry, I think that's the big thing. Kyle Lowry all of a sudden now leading the league in assists, 10 assists a game, and really playing solid. They got a great core up there that Nick Nurse is moving along.
Frank Isola?
You know, he's a rare breed in the NBA. He's won a championship. He's beaten LeBron in the finals, and he was the finals MVP. He is by far the best player in the Eastern Conference. I like what LeBron is doing out west. And this is a legitimate team. And for all the grief that Masai Ujiri took for trading DeMar DeRozan, you guys couldn't get over the hump. He liked that team. You went and traded DeMar DeRozan and got Kawhi Leonard, and you got LeBron out of the conference. That is a home run move for the Toronto Raptors.
Well, I would care less about what Kevin thinks in regard to Lowry being the leader of that team, because we know he may not win the MVP, but Kawhi Leonard's going to win the Comeback Player of the Year. I guarantee that right now, because he was nowhere to be found last year. But he's averaging 26, 9, and 2. But more important than that, he's playing all over the floor defensively. He's been the Defensive Player of the Year. We're seeing a guy resurrect his career after just what happened last year in another country. And I think that he's the reason why they're going to go to the NBA Finals, not Lowry, not Serge, not any of those other guys. It's going to be him because he's done it before.
He only played 9 games last year. Early this season, he was skipping second nights of back-to-backs, and you wondered about his health and if he'd really make it all the way back. So when you look at that his story, not his narrative, you would say he is the MVP of the first 25 games. And last night especially, big game against Philly. Philly's won 4 in a row. They hardly ever beat Toronto. And he goes 5 for 6 from 3, while his teammates go 3 for 23. He was the Raptors.
Something you want to add?
Well, I just want to point out that Kyle Lowry carried this team earlier this year when Kawhi Leonard was missing some games, and he was stepping up and scoring and playing defense as well. So he's got to get some credit for where this team is at.
Yeah, he's playing his best games against the best teams. He has scored over 35 against the Celtics, the Warriors. I think that he is actually what they need, and I think if he's liking it enough, he'll stay there and extend his career in Canada.
And Woody is right and Kevin is right about Kyle Lowry. But here's the thing. We've seen them do this in the regular season. Kawhi Leonard has the track record in the conference finals and in NBA finals. That's why the trade was a brilliant move.
And as Woody said, we'll see if he likes it there, he could stay. And if he likes it there, he might show a smile.
Nah.
He might laugh.
He might laugh a little bit. He both could and couldn't care less at the same time. That's an inside joke. We'll move on. How the Thunder came back from 23 on the Nets. 1, the Nets are terrible in the fourth quarter this year. And B, Paul George was superhuman. He had 25 in the fourth, 47 for the game, and it's this shot. Paul George hitting this shot. He had never hit this shot in his career. For his career, never the go-ahead shot in the final 10 seconds. That's evolution, Holmes. Tim Kalishaw, what did the win tell you about George? What did it tell you about the Thunder?
Well, those stats you see about George in the final seconds and clutch, it's hard to believe he hasn't done that before, but he's been great. After missing the first few games, Westbrook has been Westbrook again. And right now there's this opportunity in the West until the Warriors become the Warriors again. And we don't know when that'll happen. Denver, Oklahoma City, the Clippers, there's several teams that you wouldn't have expected to be doing what they're doing, and they're battling for first place.
Woody Page?
Yeah, consider that the Lakers, who we talked about earlier, are only a game behind the Warriors at this point. You couldn't have realized that. And the Nuggets had the best record in the conference. I told you the championship was going to go through Denver. But in regard to Oklahoma City, I think they're an improved team because they got rid of Melo. They don't have the drama of what happened with those 3 guys last year. And we thought George was going to go to L.A., one of the 2 teams. He decided to stay there, and he's returned to being the player he was in Indiana. He's carried that team team after Westbrook had the injury problem early on. They're 16-3, Tony, since they started 0-4. This is a team that's going to be a tough out all through the playoffs once again.
Frank Isola?
Tony, that stat you're talking about, Paul George had been 0 for 14 in the final 10 seconds of the fourth quarter or overtime to make a shot to give his team the lead. The only shot he ever made, game-winning shot, was that Gatorade commercial before last night. But he has been outstanding. He and Russell Westbrook, it's almost like they're floating under the radar a little bit. What I found fascinating, here yesterday you have this story about no one wants to go play with LeBron. Paul George is a guy that we all thought was going to go to L.A. and play with LeBron James. Instead, he's in Oklahoma City. The tandem of Westbrook and Paul George is lights out.
Kevin Blackstone.
Yeah, and let's not forget Adams in the middle, which has really solidified their defense at the rim. And not only that, remember, they picked up Dennis Schroeder in the offseason. He's averaging 16 points coming off the bench. So all of a sudden, you've got somebody in the backcourt who can spell Westbrook. And we know he needs that after all the minutes that he's played the last few years. And he's scoring points. So this is a really potent team right now.
Isola, last word after the horn.
Hey, let's give Westbrook a little bit of credit against Jason Kidd's former team. He passed Jason Kidd last night for triple-doubles. Now he's got 108 for his career. Pretty good.
Wow. Isola nearly with a triple-double. The first word here, 24 points. Everybody's playing catch-up, and you could care less. Buy or sell us next.
Which one is it?
We got to make a ruling here. Could not care less. That's the only way we're allowed to say this. Or not. You could care less. You're in the discussion for buy or sell. Case and points. There are quotes, and then there are quotes. And this is from an Eagles linebacker days before an Eagles-Cowboys game. Quote, look at Dallas's history. They always choke, so we'll go down there and make them choke. Camille Grugier-Hill. Tim, this is your account. Is a quote like that more likely to get the Cowboys amped or the Eagles amped?
I think it's going to get both teams fired up. But I have to say, if you're an NFL player and you're under the age of 30, you don't remember the Cowboys doing much beyond choking. You don't remember the 1995 Super Bowl. So, but I think it's the wrong thing to say, given the Cowboys just held the Saints to 10 and the Eagles' season's on the line.
KB?
But Grugier-Hill went to Eastern Illinois, home of Tony Romo, and Tony Romo became known for choking in the playoffs. So I guess that's what he's referring to. I wouldn't have brought it up.
Wow.
They have bigger fish to fry going forward.
Isola?
Yeah, this is the linebacker who the last time he played against the Cowboys had an interception right in his hands and dropped it and could have scored a touchdown. I think if Tim's talking about the current Cowboys, they've won 4 in a row. Doesn't look like they're choking.
Woody Page?
I don't think he's going to have an effect on the game whatsoever. The Cowboys have probably never heard of him, and the Eagles are probably not paying any attention to him, and we're the only ones that are getting fired up by his statement. So I think the Cowboys are going to win, and it's not going to matter.
We'll move on. Buy or sell two. Goldschmidt to the Cardinals. What that does for St. Louis. And what's the plan right now for Arizona? And you can add Seattle and what feels like half the league right now, letting all-stars go daily. What are your teams like Arizona, Seattle, rebuilding or tanking here?
Well, they're tanking because they're trying to follow the blueprint of the Houston Astros, who just totally decimated their team. And so teams now that actually could have been in the playoffs last year, Seattle with 89 victories, the Diamondbacks were right there to the end. And Goldschmidt was an MVP candidate. He's going to help the Cardinals more than anybody else they could get.
Timmy?
There's a problem here, though, and that's that, the players filed a grievance a couple years ago that Tampa Bay and Oakland were tanking. They both won over 90 games last year. Oakland went to the playoffs. The players want to believe the way to win is to throw all kinds of money at free agents. And we found out that's really not sometimes the answer.
Good point. Blackstone?
Absolutely. On this show, we made jokes about the Astros several years ago when they pared that roster down to $22 million. They're only paying one guy $1 million a year, and look what happened. So in a copycat league, which all the pro leagues are, someone's trying to copy that game plan.
You know, the Cardinals are competing against the Cubs. It's a move they have to make, just like the Mets are technically competing against the Yankees. You have to spend the money. And you guys are talking about small markets. Who won the World Series? Go look at that payroll that they have. Yeah. What about the Yankees, their payroll? The Dodgers? A lot of big-time payrolls make the playoffs.
What does Goldschmidt do for the Cardinals, Kalisha?
I think he gets them into the conversation with the Brewers and the Cubs. And I think the Cincinnati Reds are in trouble in that division because the Pirates aren't terrible either.
Yeah, well, it's a great upgrade, and given the fact that they didn't have to give up too much for him, they can still go out and make some more moves and solidify their lineup.
We'll move on. Buy or sell three. I want to talk about the growing energy behind baseball banning the defensive shift, or at least limiting the defensive shift. Commissioner Rob Manfred said he's not a fan. Baseball's competition committee inching that way, shifting that way, baby, KB. Buy or sell, shifting the stance on the shift.
Oh, I can't sell this enough. What are we going to do? Ban double coverage in the NFL? What are we going to do in basketball? You can't have the center near the rim? This is absolutely ridiculous. Learn to go the other way. Learn station-to-station baseball. Make the defense have to adjust to the offense. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Isola?
Yeah, Kevin also wanted to say you're going to prevent teams from parking the bus in soccer. Here's the thing about the shift. The league has become a home run strikeout league. So if the shift is on, bunt. Move runners over. Nobody does that in baseball anymore. Make it up to the batters to adjust. Do not change anything.
Woody Page?
Come on, man, Fred. If you don't have any ideas, don't talk about it. I mean, he didn't come forward and said, I want to put circles around every position and they have to stay inside the circle. Players do have to learn how to bunt. They're only worried about height and exit speed. I don't know why in the world players can't adjust to what's going on in baseball.
Height? Kalish, how about you? Yeah.
I don't know why all my
Change,
fellow
what you're
panelists want to
looking
see
for.
more bunts. They think baseball would be better with more bunts. I do think they need to look at shifts. I think shifts are ugly. I don't think changing them will do everything they want it to do.
Ugly.
Because I think guys hit 30 homers and strike out 170 times because they know that's where the money is.
It's like a bailout, though, right? I mean, it's like somebody funding a bailout. The idea, oh, okay, you can't hit against the ship, we'll just get rid of the ship. No, learn how to hit the other way. Woody, Kevin, you needed to hit the other way today. Didn't get it done.
Bail out.
Here's a little shift in your perspective. Kalisha, Isola, that's our showdown next. I think it's the second time this week for Timmy
good one.
and Frank.
The Dallas choke coming up.
Dallas show coming up. We'll see about that.
Whoa.
Showdown in 2 minutes.
Whoa. Why?
On Amazon.
Kalisha, Frank Isola, and showdown for the 26th time. The all-time matchup, Kalisha
Really?
17, Isola 8.
Can't be
Are
right.
you laughing at that, Tim? Good luck to
Right.
you both. Kyler Murray cracking a door open for an NFL future over a baseball future. He says it's something he and the family are going to talk about after the season. His baseball agent says he'll be in A's spring training, but just today named AP College Football Player of the Year. This Saturday could win the Heisman. With those awards and a national championship factor into his decision? Should it, Tim?
Oh, I think they all will. I think they all should. And I think the bigger one is we look less and less about a quarterback's size and how he can just produce as the NFL game becomes more like college. Lamar Jackson, as the 32nd pick, got a bigger signing bonus than Murray is getting from the A's. If he can be a first-rounder, he'll go to the NFL.
Well, I wonder how he performs in the national championship semifinals and the championship game if he gets there, if that could change his mind. But his agent is Scott Boras. When you have the most powerful baseball agent and he's telling the San Francisco Chronicle, you're going to be in spring training with the A's, you're going to be in spring training with the A's.
But it's not the agent who's making the decision, too. What makes you happy, young man? Point.
Yeah.
Tim Kalisha, Showdown 2. Did you guys know NFL fines players when they drop bills in the Salvation Army bucket? Zeke fined $13,369 for unsportsmanlike conduct. Frank, the floor is yours. Go.
So this happens on Thanksgiving while we're watching the game, and every single commercial is about Black Friday, everything that's wrong with the holiday season. And now here you have Ezekiel Elliott doing a nice thing, and he's being fined for it. Bad job by the NFL.
You know, the league looked very silly a week ago in the Kareem Hunt situation, much more serious. They don't need to put it on themselves again to look silly. You have all these celebrations where people call attention to themselves, where it's all about me. Here he is raising awareness about Salvation
I
Army.
know fines go to donations for leagues, charities, and the idea
Yeah,
they have.
but it's his money.
But didn't Ezekiel Elliott also donate his own additional money? Didn't Dak Prescott do that as well? This wasn't just a $21 donation. Yeah. I don't know this league. We'll move on. Showdown 3. More shocking college experience from last night. Ready? Gonzaga needing the Hachimura buzzer beater to beat Washington. Or Zion missing dunks, plural, last night. Tim Kalisha?
I don't mind Gonzaga having a close call with Washington. The Huskies beat Texas A&M the other night. They're not a bad team, but we heard so much about Zion after that Kentucky game. We don't expect him to look like JaVale McGee out there.
The guy is going to be under a lot of pressure. I'm talking about Zion Williamson because every game he plays is on TV. Everyone's looking at him. And, Tony, do not tell me you don't see a little Rodney Rogers, Sean Kemp in Zion Williamson in terms of his body.
I see Zion Williamson in Zion, the one and the only. Point, Tim
look at you.
Kalisha. Do what makes you feel good,
Yeah.
Timmy.
Mr. Politically
30
correct.
seconds of FaceTime.
I want to send out best wishes to Alex Smith and his family. Very ominous message from the Redskins today that they want people to respect his family's privacy. It's been reported he has still been in the hospital for 2 weeks since that serious broken leg injury and now has developed an infection. You think about Colt McCoy breaking his leg a week ago. We talk about quarterbacks and all the money they make, and you think about the serious physical risks they take. And right now, Alex Smith seems to be fighting something unusual. So best wishes to him and his family.
Tim Kalisha the win today. That's going to do it, folks. Thanks for coming around. We are on a 23 and 1/2 hour break. We'll see you tomorrow. All right.